We have Andrew here from the Madison Club. He's an executive chef. He is here because somebody, is Fred here? Fred Lee? Right down here. Fred said, get a chef. And so we got a chef.
You have more influence over this conference than you ever knew.
And so we know Andrew because he is the brother of a coworker, but also the executive chef at the Madison Club, which I'll let you talk about what the Madison Club is. But just hearing Andrew's story, he turned out to be the perfect person for this slot. So, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Wilson.
Woo! Thank you. So I'm executive chef at the Madison Club, which is a private social and dining club here downtown Madison, Wisconsin. It's a unique situation as an executive chef to be a private club chef, just because we are only open for a set group of clientele, as people who pay dues and our members that come, so that it makes it challenging in that we're not open to the general public, so we have to really kind of focus our efforts in the people that we have. The Madison Club has been around about 103 years, something like that. It's right next door to the Monona Terrace, so it has beautiful lake views. I think it's really unique in that it has a great location in downtown Madison, so I think that's definitely one of our big advantages. And then I know for me when I started there it was confusing because I kind of said, well, you don't have a golf course or tennis courts or something, and because it's not a country club, it's a city club. So we really focus more on events and dining, and because of that, the culinary operations tend to be pretty robust and a little bit more dynamic. I was planning on maybe bringing, I should have brought food, it sounds like now, but I was thinking about bringing my knives and maybe doing a demonstration there, but like with my nerves and my luck, I'd walk out of here short a couple fingers. And so I saw on the schedule there's something tomorrow called Eight-Fingered Chef. I don't know what that's all about, but I took it to be a very ominous sign, and I stayed away from that idea altogether. I am a chef, so I started, just as a cook in the kitchen. So definitely being out in front of people like this is not my natural environment. I enjoy being behind the stove more than anything, but it's definitely been fun for me to kind of grow professionally and challenge myself there. As far as, I'll just talk a little bit about my story. I started, and really what I want to focus on as I talk about kind of my career and my story is just on the fact of mentors and all these different mentors that I have had along my career. I'm going to focus on 3 of them. And so the first chef that I worked for is a chef proprietor of 4 restaurants in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And I started there at Trattoria Stefano's. His name is Stefano Violetti. It's a regional Italian restaurant that's fairly well known within the state, and he does just a fantastic job and great food. And he was doing the whole local food, organic thing years ago before it was hip and before it was trendy, just because that was the Italian ideal. You bring the best of what's in season, and you seek out things that you know where they came from, and you know that they're of the highest quality, and because of that, prepared simply, your food is amazing. So I think for a start for me, I couldn't have asked for anything better, just because he was he is such a passionate individual, and we would spend 45 minutes before service when everybody had other things to be doing, and he would just be talking about the provenance of a specific ingredient or the history and cultural significance of a dish from northern Italy. So I think to get that background was great, and it was more laid back. It was more of a family oriented thing. So we didn't call him chef. I didn't know all these French terms that I know now as far as knife cuts. I didn't know what a brunoise was. We just had to cut the carrots real small for the pasta sauce. That's all we knew. And so I spent 4 years there, and some of my fondest memories of being a cook. He opened a second restaurant, which was a Neapolitan-style pizzeria. Neapolitan-style pizza is from the Napoli coast, and it's a specific style of pizza. Certain toppings and ingredients are used, and so there's actually national or international register of those, and we were 6 in the United States to join that. He had brought a gentleman, Pepe, over from Italy. The guy didn't speak any Italian. He trained us how to make pizzas. He'd been doing it for 30 years in Positano, Italy. And so that was an amazing experience, especially to be yelled at by a guy in Italian and not know what he's saying to you, but knowing that you're messing the pizza up. It seemed like it was a different training process over there. I think at one point he burned one of the guys with something out of the oven because he was so upset. But we kept our heads down. We made the pizza. So, and Stefano, one of the really amazing things about him, he was so passionate that he would take staff members, and when the restaurant was small and young early on, they would close down for a week or two in summer, and he'd buy everybody a plane ticket to Italy, and they'd go over to Italy and just see how things were done, at the source. And I, being young and foolish, was 19 and some friends moved in California, and I jumped on that bandwagon and probably missed my ticket to Italy. But it ended up taking me to California. I lived on the central coast of California for a while and worked in a few restaurants there. And the second place I worked there was a boutique hotel, spa resort called Sycamore Mineral Springs. It was a unique place. It had yoga and massage therapy, and we kind of did, it was right in the middle of wine country in the Central Coast, so we definitely did kind of wine country food. We didn't necessarily do health and wellness food, but it was there that I met the second mentor I really want to talk about. His name was Chef David McWilliam, and he was a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, the CIA, and so he was the one that really he really took the time and trusted the kid from Sheboygan who didn't really know what he was talking about, took me under his wing and really showed me a lot of things, but more importantly, I think, taught me how to manage, how to be a leader, because he was just the type of guy that could just command the kitchen with his presence. And we also had fun. We had fun doing it. And it was a fun spot there. I really got to see the bounty of California produce. We had almost 3 acres of gardens that were grown specifically for our hotel, for the restaurant. And we had more tomatoes the first year than we had any idea what to do with, but it really drove our creativity to know that you had to go out, the 3 hours you have before service to get all your things ready, you get your mise en place, that's all your ingredients, all your stuff set up in front of you, which is kind of, Anthony Bourdain in his books talks about that just being a cook's religion, the mise en place, the mise, as we call it, just it's what you live and breathe. So we'd be focused on getting that set up and have to take time out and drive a golf cart half a mile down the road to the gardens and harvest tomatoes and bring them back to the restaurant and figure out what to do with them. So that really was one of the first places I saw, kind of that level of creativity under pressure and the necessity of that, in the chef's repertoire. And so I spent a few years out in California, and I enjoyed it, but definitely kind of, for whatever reason, began to start missing seasons. It's one of the things I love about Wisconsin so much is the seasons. It makes everything so much more dramatic. When you have asparagus randomly, it could be March, it could be May, and it's only in season for a little bit of time, so you get after it, and we put in everything, and then we're done with it. We move on to the next thing. California, asparagus would come in February and be great, for months. Same with tomatoes, things like that. And so I think Wisconsin and the climate really has given me a greater appreciation for seasonal cooking because it's just harsher seasons. So from Sycamore Mineral Springs in California, I went and moved back here to Madison, Wisconsin, where I'm from originally. And that's when I ended up at the Madison Club. I never pictured myself ending up at a private club. But here I am, and I've learned to embrace it and love it for what it is. And when I started there, I was working for a gentleman, Chef Dan Fox, and he's the next guy has really had one of the biggest influences, I would say, on my career thus far. And he was the executive chef there. He's a young guy. He's only a couple years older than me. And he's actually just about to open a restaurant here in Madison in about a week. I wish I could plug it and it was open, but it's called the Heritage Tavern, and it's going to be open in about a week. And I know it's going to be the best restaurant in town, without a doubt. And it was him where I really saw, just the level of just dedication to being local and to seeking out the best ingredients, but to really forging relationships with the farmers. That's that's what I enjoy now at the club, is being able to, I mean, there's different producers or farmers, and they come to me, and we'll have a dialogue at some points at the start of the growing season, what we need, what we want to put on a menu, what we like to see. And so having that kind of connection to the food and to just the sense of place is fantastic. And so I definitely saw that in him. And then he's the type of guy where he got so obsessed with a certain thing, which it was heritage breed pigs, kind of rare breed pigs, or pigs that aren't bred anymore just for commercial reasons, that they have too much fat, or they grow too fast or too slow, or whatever it may be. And there's the heritage pigs, that's a broad category of a lot of different types. And so he got interested in them enough to the point where he didn't want to have to go out and try to buy what he wanted, the pork that he wanted. He decided to start growing or raising the pork that he wanted. So he partnered with a local farmer and bought some pigs, and the herd went from one pig, and 3 years later he had over 150, and now he's opening a restaurant, and he's still selling pigs to me. So that, I think, was just seeing that from start to finish was very important for me. And we got into the habit of taking staff field trips. One of the most important ones we did is we went out to a local farm, Fountain Prairie Farms, and he had partnered with a guy who had worked as a butcher in Italy for 6 months, making charcuterie, making prosciuttos, hams, all these beautiful Italian products. And we went to the farm and we harvested a pig, and we were in there from the start all the way through to the salami, and we made head cheese, and we learned how to not waste a single scrap on the animal. Everything went into a stock or a pate or a salami or a terrine, and just seeing that level of sustainability and just kind of whole hog cooking that you can have when you really are starting with a quality product that was raised and dispatched in a humane way. That was, I think, the biggest lesson I take away from my time under Dan. But then, he was a guy who was trained by a bunch of real classic French chefs, and so I really went back and kind of reread Escoffier. Escoffier is one of the most famous French chefs of all times. He's the guy who really set up the whole system. He's the reason you have chefs and sous chefs and all of that. So getting that from Dan was really important, and it was at that point in time where I kind of really, I'd known I wanted to come back to Wisconsin because it was home and because there was family here, and I missed a lot of people. It was at that point that I think from a professional and from a culinary standpoint, I really fell in love with the area. We have the biggest producer-driven farmers market in the country. Everybody out there, and it's getting to the point now where I walk around and I know people, and I know their story, and I know their names, and I know exactly where I have to go to avoid the crowd and just buy the hickory nuts and get out of there, which has been incredibly helpful for me because I don't like to wake up early on Saturdays. And so that's a wonderful thing. The proximity of the Madison Club to that, we're about 2 blocks off that, and then Wednesdays we have literally right out our front door another farmer's market, which is just as fantastic. And then in Madison also, I think, is just really, we have an incredible amount of restaurants per capita. I mean, there's days that I wish the Madison Club was a public restaurant, because we do fly under the radar a little bit, but I do get out and be involved in the community. These are a lot of initiatives we've kind of started at the club of being more involved with the local food community, working with other chefs, getting our name out there, because I show up to these things and people go, "Where are you? You guys are," and we have to go through and explain it, and just nobody knows that we exist because it's a private club. And then they're upset when they find out that they can't eat there. It doesn't always work well as far as selling memberships, but we do our best. And so that's been a great thing. I think there's a fantastic community of local chefs. I know Tori Miller, he won the James Beard Award, Best Chef Midwest. Seeing a guy from Wisconsin take that was fantastic. We hosted a very big event for close to 500 people at the Madison Club this past March called Slow Pig. This was actually my former chef, Dan Fox, had put this together, again, to showcase his heritage breed pigs, but just to put more of an emphasis on that concept of slow food and of doing things the way it used to be, and not shipping in your asparagus from Peru in November, and not serving tomatoes from Mexico in March, things like that. So that's where that's where we've really came to as a club. And so I owe so much to him in that he really turned the place over to me in a great spot where I can just kind of continue to focus in on the things that we've done well and improve on them and build a team that I can rely on, because I think one of the things that inspires me most in food, beyond all the ingredients and the history and all that, is really the teamwork of it, the team atmosphere. Cooking really is a team sport, and you have to have everybody working towards the same goal. And so the camaraderie in the kitchen has been something I feel like I've always enjoyed and thrived on. So I look forward to another, to helping the club move into another 100 years. We'll see how that goes. But I just think that for us to remain, viable as a private club in a down economy is to get out there and be on the cutting edge of food, and be more forward thinking, and really get involved with the community, even though our model isn't that of a public restaurant. So I really think the course of my career, I kind of just, when I had to sit back and think of what I wanted to talk about here, it was just pinpointing those points where I kind of had somebody look at me, recognize some kind of talent, and then take the time to appreciate that. I mean, I go back to Stefano, that first chef, and I had started there as a busboy and worked as a dishwasher. I'd switched to washing dishes at some point just because I didn't like the front of the house aspect of it. It just wasn't for me. And so around the time I turned 18, I wanted to make more money, and I wanted to. So I had asked him if I could do if I could wait tables, if I could be a server. And it was at that point he looked at me and he was like, "You don't want to be a server. I'm telling you, just trust me on this one. You want to be a cook, I'll start training you on salads." And I really went from there. And so that's been, as I move now into the role of hiring younger cooks and training them, that's one of the biggest lessons I've taken away from my experience, is to really take the time to recognize the talent and support it in the people around you. So hopefully some of that can relate to the things that you do. I think a lot of chefs try to relate cooking to other things, and I think it isn't always accurate or successful, but I think there are parallels there as far as just kind of the teamwork and that emphasis on mentoring in a professional atmosphere. So thank you guys very much for listening to me ramble on about my story. It might not be the most interesting, but I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.